My name's Pira. We are working on some Noah's Archipelago stuff. Noah's Archipelago, I was doing as a webcomic until a few months ago, but this is a project now where it's going to be a book project called Noah's Archipelago, Noah Thorson's Book of Days, something like that. Book with a whole bunch of illustrations having to do with seasons and months and observations and whatnot. There's my usual streaming schedule in case anyone's wondering. So, and we will be working with markers on Bristol board today. So it is the November illustration. And I was thinking, November, not so much here in Canada because our elections are more random. But of course, in the United States, November is election season. So I had the idea of Noah's daughter Ursula here deciding that she's going to become president of the school board so as to get rid of this pesky math fractions homework that bothers her so much. So that's the gist of it. We're going to start with, well, lettering and outlining with these pigment liners. I've got them in a few different weights. Then we will fill in colors, and then usually I thicken up some of the lines, especially on something this big of a scale. So, but I usually do that after I've put in all the color. And now the underdrawing is a non-photo blue. When I'm scanning in black and white, that vanishes. This is going to be in color, so it is going to show. So I've tried to be fairly careful with where it's going, so as to minimize the amount of it showing through light colors, but a certain amount of that is kind of just going to happen. And I can always tweak things in our old friend, Mr. Photoshop, at the end if need be. But I do try and be cautious with my color choices and whatnot so as to minimize that. So I'm just looking for where's my wedge one because I always use a thicker one. And the other thing I'll say is because this is on a big scale, we will probably be wrapping this drawing up, well, I don't want to say pretty shortly, but it's not going to take the whole 2 hours. So then what I'm going to do afterwards is at least one, maybe a couple cast portraits for a different Noah's Archipelago book project that I'm trying to get finished up. So, go back to the 1.2 for this. It's kind of a running gag that Ursula hates fractions homework and hates school in general. She also hates working, but somewhere along the line, she must have been told that the school board are the ones who make the decisions about curriculum. So it follows that if you want to change the curriculum, you need to get in charge of the school board. The fact that she's 8 and therefore not eligible, well, that just goes to show that there's a grand conspiracy to force children to learn fractions, as far as Ursula is concerned. But, anyways, what these bigger drawings are going to be will be kind of like chapter headers. And then I will have stuff on the different like daily holidays, observances, and whatnot in each month afterwards, which I haven't written that yet because when I started these, I thought it was just going to be a simple calendar. Um, so after next week, when we do December, I will kind of put this aside as I do all the writing part for this book, but we will be working on a different Noah's Archipelago related project. I think I've mentioned it a little bit before, that it'll be what they call a reader magnet for my newsletter, but it'll have about 30 different illustrations. And so in a couple weeks, we will start working on that. But that's then, this is now. So, always have to actually pay a little bit more attention when I'm lettering, even when I have guidelines underneath, because I have been known to, as I'm blathering along and I'm lettering. Hi, oh, let me see if I can pronounce this right. Pinyar Karkonger. I hope I said that right. Hello and welcome to the stream. Let me make my chat a little bit bigger for me so I can actually read it a little easier. Thanks for popping by. Um, as what I was saying is I have noticed at times if I'm doing this sort of like lettering and talking at the same time, I do have to be careful. Otherwise, I'm likely to ignore what's written on the guidelines and start like writing what I'm saying, which would be funny which is funny when it happens on camera, I'm sure. But then I have to do extra Photoshop work to fix it. So um, I'll try to avoid that. But fortunately, there's only a little bit more text. Um, and the nice thing, because I'm working with pigment liners and they dry real quick. Hello, Gary. Hello, Gusto. Welcome. Because these dry quickly, I can work back and forth and jump around on the paper a lot. Whereas when I work with, India liquid ink, like this stuff, and a dip pen, then I pretty much have to go top left to bottom right and be very much more careful because otherwise I am liable to smear things, which has absolutely happened on camera. So, anyways, so this receptionist at the school board, clearly Ursula is not the only kid who's had this idea of get in charge of the school board and get rid of the homework that way. In fact, Ursula is the sixth child to do that today, or this morning. I may Photoshop out the hyphen. Sometimes I've seen third grader with a hyphen as if it's, like a compound word or whatnot, and sometimes I see it as two completely distinct words. So I will look up the actual proper grammar on that before the book is published, but we'll worry about that later because it's an easy thing to Photoshop out. So now that our text is done, gives my brain a little bit more leeway. I always like using a variety of different line weights, especially in something this big. Now, I think the only other one in the book where we have heads that big is probably February. So I'll show you what the February one looks like. It's a slightly different style, but you get the picture for the line work. So that is Ursula's dad, Noah, and he's in the mood trying to get his wife Ruth to get busy. So that's kind of the only other one that's on that scale. Mostly the heads are more like this, but it does mean that I can definitely have a thicker line weight because that's more in proportion. Um, so a lot of the work's going to be done with this one today. The paper I'm using for these is Bristol board. It's this, well, actually, I was going to say it's the Strathmore. I'm not sure if this one is. This may be the Canson XL recycled Bristol board. But in any case, it is Bristol board. And it's hard to tell if this is a smooth finish or a vellum finish. There was a point in time when the smooth was really obvious and the vellum was, definitely more textured. But now it seems that the smooth Bristol board has a texture to it when it didn't used to years ago. So I don't know. Doesn't really matter for this application. Where it matters more is when you're using a dip pen, because especially if you have like a pointy nib like that, because that will dig into rougher papers. Um, but anyways, we'll worry about the dip pens a little later. I'm just thinking, so that being the edge of the counter is definitely going to be a fat line. Some of the other ones may not be. Um, so that's this receptionist lady's chair, her shoulder, and decline. Just putting in some general hair direction lines. I think I'm going to make this lady a brunette, so her hair is going to be dark. So I don't feel I need to like put in as much. Probably not the right word, but like pieciness, like outlines. Like if she was blonde and I was wanting to chunk it, then that would look weird. Just having floating lines, but when the hair is darker, it's not as much of an issue, I think. And then Ursula with her ponytails. In Ursula's face, I'm going to use a smaller marker for outlining, but on her hair, kind of nice to have one of these go quickly today because a lot of them have been like 2 hours for just the one drawing, but those were definitely smaller, more detailed drawings. So, anyways, and because it's cartoon world, Ursula and her fellow denizens here all have the three fingers and thumb cartoon hands instead of four. Of course, my other cartoon that I work on is Ricky B. the Rock and Roll Rat, and the rat people all have four fingers and a thumb. But then that was a cartoon I came up with after doing Noah's Archipelago for a year or so. When I was kind of like, I don't know, I think maybe the fewer fingers might be a mistake. So, anyways, we're going to. This is just the back of the receptionist desk. She probably has stacks of paper and whatnot, but I think I may draw in like some like post-it notes and stuff like that. In which case, then I need say 0.5. She's got some sort of a reminder for herself. Um, Note about meeting time. Plus, then I can make those a really bright color as well, which is always a good thing to do. So we've got our basic outline. Now, let's start with Off here to the side, I have my a spare piece of Bristol board that I used for figuring out what color markers actually are, because it often has nothing or little resemblance to what's on the lid. That one's kind of close. I've seen some that are really, really out of whack. So I'm just gonna block in the receptionist's hair here. And for the streams, I'm kind of just doing the marker stuff. There's definitely some of these drawings where I've gone in and added some pencil crayon for extra detailing. And I may do that at the end, not during the stream, but I mean like when the book is done, sort of decide if I want that kind of uniformly and add more of that all across. So one of the things with alcohol markers, I know there's some I think that are like blenders that are supposed to smooth out the pen strokes here, but I kind of usually try and make those overlaps actually work with what I've got. So in this case, of course, it's easy to do it because we're drawing somebody's hair, so they kind of become directional lines and shading. If you've got a big area, you do have to be a little more cautious of that. But you can kind of like here, I'm using a sort of curved strokes, and that also helps define the way the hair lays. And if you're doing that, like when I come to the back of her chair, I'm probably going to do it this way, and it makes the chair look just that ever so slightly rounded. So it's just something to think about rather than worrying about getting rid of these lines. They're kind of inherent to the medium. You can try and figure out ways of making them work for what you're doing. So that's our base coat. Um, I'm gonna look for a darker. It's pretty- So there we go. And we do also want to have, there's going to be a fair amount of brown in this because Ursula's hair color is also kind of brown. Although, hi Mary, welcome to the stream. Thanks for popping in. Um, the marker I usually use for Ursula's hair is this one. This is just a cheap one from Michael's from many years ago. It's kind of got that orangey shade. I think when I was doing it digitally, her hair was kind of this color, but just slightly more brown. And this is what I've used for Ursula's hair throughout the book. The only thing is, I am kind of starting to get concerned about this running out and me not having a replacement. Because I don't have replacements. They don't make those anymore. So I am going to, I'll do this on here. So that's the original. I'm going to see what I've got here that might be close. That actually, this, okay, what is this? Potato brown. Potato brown is actually probably slightly closer to what I had in when I was doing it digitally, and the cross between them is quite good. I'm just gonna kind of see. Got one called yellow ochre, which may be even closer. No. Okay, that is not yellow ochre. See, here I could go off on a rant. Now these are just cheap markers that I got from Home Sense, which is like Canada's version of TJ Maxx or Home Goods. But I've been painting with acrylics and whatnot since I was a teenager in the early 90s. So, like 30 odd years, more than 30 years. Believe me, what that says on that on the tip is sort of yellow ochre. This marker is more close to yellow ochre. That is nowhere near yellow ochre. But, and it's not that close to that. But, anyways, that's a whole other rant that I could go on. Dark sienna would kind of be close. This is a different, that's a little too brown. I mean, worst case scenario, I could just color it all in that one, but I'm trying to kind of make it pivot. Brick brown might be an interesting one. That's too red, definitely too red. There's one here called caramel brown. Would that make sense? Okay, that's nowhere near brown, but that's closer. What I may do, because the potato brown is also kind of too, they're all just a little bit off. This is one of the things when you're doing, trying to pick colors and whatnot. Got one called mocha. That's not anywhere close. Of course, one can always blend things, but shockingly, that's that's kind of closer. Although Ursula is more of a redhead than a blonde, that's more of a blonde color. Melon yellow. Definitely too orange. And overpowers the other. So yeah, I think we're just thinking. I may just for got one terracotta. I have terracotta pots on my window right like a foot and a half away from me. Believe me, they are not that color. Anyways, I have seen what some other artists who do YouTube videos have done where they have actually made a color chart. So if it says 103 potato brown, they've put it on and then you know labeled and whatnot. So, but I think we are going to go with the other joke is that at a certain point you forget what they look like. I think I'm gonna stick with the old one for now. So that was a bit of a time waste, but none of the others are really that close. This is going to become a problem over time. If I was doing more and more of the Noah's Archipelago stuff with markers, at some point this one will absolutely run out of ink. And then I'm kind of a little bit screwed. But It's a reason why I had, last week actually, somebody was asking about why you know, they're asking because I do most of my stuff is black and white and asking, do I work in color and whatnot? And this is just another of the reasons why I mostly do black and white. Um, this particular book is going to be a full color book, so we will make it full color. But the whole thing about like color matching and all that is yet another reason why I kind of like to my basic black and white because I don't have to care. It's like, okay, well, black matches black, right? Anyways, um, and it's kind of a little bit moot also because some of my projects are actually coloring book projects. So, you know, those are all drawn in black and white because somebody else is going to color them in when after buying the book. So, but anyways, I am going to definitely have to keep an eye out for a marker that's got this kind of um, brownish kind of a color. I would assume that either Copic or what are these ones called? The Oahu ones, etc. They would definitely have some color that would be fairly similar to this. I just need to take the time to go and fetch a bunch and test them out. And then kind of make color charts for, okay, this is the marker we're going to use for Ursula's hair, for Noah's hair, etc. I do have that figured out for skin color. Because Ursula, I did figure out which one of these is the right skin color for Ursula. But you can see here I'm doing something similar with making my the direction of my strokes match the direction that I would expect Ursula's hair to be falling in. Not too worried about the little bits going over into here because those are her hair ties and they're probably going to be hot pink, which will wash that out. Same with there's a tiny little over it. The Knight Batman says, "Welcome back, Charles Schultz." Thank you. Well, welcome to the stream, Mr. Batman. I used to, when I was a kid, I read so much Peanut stuff. It's crazy. Um, also, Bloom County was another favorite from that era as well. And Garfield. Well, everybody loved Garfield in the 80s. All right, so set that aside. Now let's pick geranium. Is that going to be too red? Yeah, it's a little too red. I do want her hair ties to actually be pink. Um, this is my favorite mismatch. Azalea purple. That is not purple. I mean, it's not like a coral pink, it's a cool pink, but it's definitely not purple. So now let's get her. Oh, yes. Before I go any further, Ursula has her father's blue eyes. We're just gonna use a slightly darker shade around the outside of the iris, and a lighter blue on the inside. Those ones are very close, so it kind of blends in. That would be too dark. Let's try that. I always kind of enjoy the meme of, the kid who can just barely sort of see over the countertop. And those are going to all spill out. So I use this slightly pinkish pink frost color for Ursula's skin, also for her mother Ruth's. Although Ruth's been in a couple of these cartoons, but not too many. Not too worried about the underdrawing showing at the edges of her fingers because that's happened enough in the book and also in other marker sketches that I've done of the characters from Noah's Archipelago that at this point I just call it style. It's the thing, if you're making mistakes, but you know you're going to make them, just pretend that those are intentional design decisions. And similar here now, with something this pale, it does tend to blend in quite a bit. But even so, I can try and keep the marker strokes sort of going in a direction that makes sense as opposed to like just going vertically. Um, try and, make this sort of semicircular around her eyes as an example. Something like there where I was gonna draw in like the thumbnails. That's something that I possibly would Photoshop out. Um, but we'll worry about that later. Yeah, this lady. Trying to pick out a good post-it note color. So far, they're all a little too dark. I think this one works, though. Yeah, that's a good photo. That's a good post-it note color. Let's go with that. For the desk, I think we'll probably end up kind of doing something similar with this in order to bring out like the wood grain. But we'll assume that they are trying to go for like that pale Scandinavian kind of look. So, which is actually very similar to the lady's the receptionist's skin tone. But, by the time we add in some wood grain and whatnot, it should be different enough. This I'm envisioning where it's kind of, where they've got the desk and then there's a part that's in back. So, um, anyways, this will be in shadow, but for now, I'm gonna color it in the same and then use you know, a gray to tone it back and make it look more shadowed. So, and this is another time when we are going to be going through and finding a bunch of colors that all don't really work. Definitely a case where having a color chart could work because one of these, that might actually be potato brown, but I don't think it is. But I know I found one earlier that actually would work well with the um, foreshadowing, but I can't seem to get it there. This one, however, can kind of has a little bit more tone. That's starting to match Ursula's hair. Well, while I'm thinking of that, let's add a little bit of shadow in. Definitely add in more shadow, but it helps to start lighter and then add rather than try and go too dark too soon. I am still digging through these, trying to find whichever the correct brown was from a while ago, but we may end up not worrying about that. Now, I think what we want to do is I'm thinking have some blue in the receptionist's shirt. Doesn't have to be the same blue as Ursula's eyes, but in the same color family. Um, that's going to be uh, the darkest. And then let's. It's also going to start pulling out the shade in Ursula's eyes more. So you usually do want to try and reuse some colors throughout the piece, just to kind of bounce that around a little bit more. Now, for her chair, I'm thinking that's going to be black, but it's kind of good, I find, to muck around and have colors that aren't pure black. So what we might do here is pick up like a super deep, I know this is gonna sound really weird, but we're gonna actually start with that pink and build it up so it's like a purplish kind of black, pinky purple, like a reddish, at least in the chair. And I know that sounds really goofy, but it'll make it a richer black. So we're gonna let some of the pink show through, like basically let that color break. Well, now this color is called Lavender Fog. It's a very dark gray, but with a bit of a purplish tone. So again, kind of build that up. So that when we get an actual black marker onto it, it's going to read as black, but one that's got some depth to it. Whereas this would just be like a flat black. But that would be the fabric part of her chair, right? So then what we want on the plastic often would be a slightly different shade. So for that, I'm thinking we're going to actually go blue. We're going to start. And you can also see what I was talking about with following contours, right? Now, a couple weeks back, when I was doing the September, I did a version of this with Ursula's outfit because Ursula was in mourning for the fact that she had to go back to school. But so she was wearing all black, but they were different shades of black because I did it this way. Um, Like, that chair still looks very pinkish, which is fine. And then we're going to do this. For my hand, it's a little easier to curve it this way when it's at an angle. Sworn somewhere in here, I actually had an actual black marker, but I don't really see it right now. That's metallic. But actually, that could work. Kind of gives a little bit of a highlight. Excuse me. So now for the background, what am I going to do? Well, first of all, I'm still trying to figure out the correct brown. So I guess as mocha dries, mocha does kind of come into this. So uh, I may regret this decision, but I'm basing it on what I'm seeing on my test sheet. I do think you get to a certain point where it's just not going to blend anymore. And I may be there already. So now for background, I think the most obvious and simplest thing will be to use yellow and green in the background. I'm going to start with the green. Um, so kind of debating, do I want to do an effect? What I may do, um, what I'm probably going to do is kind of like I showed at the beginning or earlier with this other page where I did more complicated backgrounds. We don't really have enough background space to really muck with that. Um, but we can certainly do maybe some dot patterning or whatnot. Um, so let's go for that. And I'm just like randomly shoving markers back, and I've got a whole bin off to the side here. So when you've seen me kind of vanish, that's where I have been poking around in. It's windy out, so the wind is like blasting my gate back and forth a little bit. I don't know if that picks up in my mic, but if you hear like rattling noises or thumps or whatnot, that's probably what it is. Yeah, I'm kind of liking this green polka dot um, version of the background. And then I may kind of add some yellow dots in it, or I may when all said and done. I do think it is good to repeat colors, so I'll probably will add some of the same yellow. Swear. Not that you have to repeat colors, but it does give a little bit of unity, I find. It's like even with the pink, that when this is scanned and printed, that'll probably read mostly as black, but in theory, depending on the quality of the printing, it should pick up or just kind of subtly hint at pink. And I'm not worrying too much about like um, perfectly spaced dots or line patterns or whatnot. After all, this is obviously being done by hand. That's why there's mistakes in it, right? Oh, oh yeah, I just realized this is a little bit off to the side. So this section I did for the last couple minutes. I guess I was off camera. Pay a little bit more attention. I'm streaming on my phone, so but actually, that's one other thing. I started a couple weeks ago, a few weeks ago, maybe just a couple, on the Wednesday night Zama the Destroyer streams. I stopped streaming from my phone vertically, and I started using OBS and like a document camera um, to stream via my laptop. And I think it makes for a better video quality, um, especially on the replay. Um, so this project, I mean, obviously I'm streaming vertically tonight. Next week I will as well for the December one, because I think for this one all of the streams have been vertical. But the plan is that when I start the next Tuesday night project in a couple weeks, it'll be a horizontal stream with OBS, similar to what I'm doing with Zomo right now. So, uh, so that'll be a change going forward as well. Just like the Miles Marov project that I'm streaming on Monday night, same thing. I've got one more week on the current phase of that project. And then the week after that, I'm going to start a new Miles and Ricky project. Well, it's more of a Ricky project, but Miles is in it. And that one will also have, I'll also be switching over to a horizontal stream with OBS and whatnot. So that'll be, that means that I guess by July, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I have horizontal streams. And then for the immediate future anyways, the Friday and Thursday streams will stay vertical. So that way it's kind of, depending what format people like, there's 2 or 3 streams each week that fits it. So that one's more of a triangle. So there we've got that green dot throughout, but I do want to put in a little bit of the yellow. And I think I'm going to also do it, but more sparsely. So not as close together, but you know. See, by having the spacing different, it ends up creating a little interest, you know? Yeah. This is also not perfectly spaced, so there's that. You do get some weirdness where, in theory, the next line down would be kind of like that. But that's fine. We'll fudge it a little bit. That one doesn't really line up with anything, but whatever. So now let's go back and see where we might want to fatten up some lines. So certainly we need to extend that. I think we are going to call that one done. So it's a little longer than I thought it would take. We're about an hour and 10 minutes into the stream, but that means that we have a little more than 45 minutes left um, to do some character portraits. So as I just quickly set stuff up in the background. Um, the ink I'm going to shake up, but it'll be the last thing I pour out after I move this out of the way, obviously. Um, And then I've got a couple bowls I'll put some water in for cleaning out pens. So this book is going to be the Noah Thorson's Book of Days, because Noah loves all sorts. It's a running gag in there that the character Noah loves all sorts of observances, holidays, etc., etc. Um, so it's going to be a book discussing those, but this one won't be out for a while. What is going to be out, I think, sooner rather than later, is that I am working on used to call it an anthology, but it's actually more properly called a treasury of some of the webcomic versions of Noah's Archipelago. So we are going to be doing. I've already done some cast portraits. So, like Ursula's big brother Adam's girlfriend is Stacy. We drew that a while back. And that's one of her other brothers, Duke. So we may do that. That's her eldest brother, Adam. That's his Ursula's grandmother, Hrefna, baby sister, Valerie. Now, we're not going to get through all of these today. And I do have a big one I want to do of her dad, Noah, actually on the job singing. But that one's going to take a while. So, and that's her mother, Ruth. I don't know how much these actually show up. Anyways, I think I'm going to bang out a couple of these cast portraits. So, well, let's start with the baby Valerie. So that's Ursula's little sister. And, right, I need ink. And I need pens. Probably won't use all of those, but it's good to have them ready to go. Anyways, that's Ursula's teacher, Miss Fardamar. I did not do this one on stream. I did that one in mid-May at the gallery for my local arts council. I was giving it was kind of officially a demo. But basically I was hanging out in the gallery during an exhibition and doing some inking. If people wanted to come ask me questions, they could. But anyway, so that's Miss Fardamar, teaching fractions and dreaming of being on the beach. So we'll finish off this page. Obviously, they're two separate illustrations, but with baby Valerie. And baby Valerie is imagining being in the jungle. Amongst the bamboo. Put in some shadow here, but I'll probably come and do more of it with the really fine crow quill pen. Personally, I hate bamboo. I used to like it before I had a house where previous owner had planted some. Oh. And then I learned to despise bamboo. It is extremely invasive. The roots go down straight to hell, as near as anyone can tell. And if you have one tiny piece of the root, you know, what it is my house has a palm tree that's like, I don't know, 20 feet tall that the previous owner had planted. I know, yes, I'm in Canada, but there's a particular kind. I think it's called a windmill palm. But the windmill palm, uh, the roots are very shallow. So, and it needs sandy soil. So, anyways, um, right around the roots, which come out like fingers at the soil level, there were bamboo clumps growing up through them. So like you can't really douse that in Roundup because it would have killed the palm tree. Um, so it was manual pulling. Like when I moved in, 2019, almost 10 years ago, my dad did a lot of that stuff. and we removed a bunch of soil. We got a lot of the bamboo out. At the time, we thought we got all of it out, and now, it was fine for a few years, and then, like, last summer, I suddenly looked, and there were these tiny bamboo shoots coming up, again, right against the trunk of the palm tree, right around the palm trees, very shallow roots. So we've been pulling it again. So, anyways, that's just my little "I hate bamboo" rant. It's extremely invasive. It's like you know, if I ever move, or am house hunting again, like, that's something where it'd be definitely, so now I know for next time, if you see a house that has bamboo, like, I wouldn't even make an offer on it. My thing would be like, "Nope, we are not doing this. We are not doing this again. F that. F bamboo. F whoever planted it there." Also, look at the neighbors, because apparently what happened, I found out from my neighbor, the neighbor on the other side of my neighbors, so, like, 2 doors down, and this is years ago, had planted bamboo. It got massive. It got to the point, like, it was taller than my neighbor's eaves troughs, and she's got a bungalow, so it's, like, 10 feet tall. Um, and the house that had the bamboo, and they were constantly trying to get rid of it and all this, and it was a constant problem. Anyways, the other neighbors, I guess, moved, sold, whatever. New people moved in. They agreed. They hated the bamboo too. They had to bring in, um, like a bulldozer, like, one of the like, some, heavy machinery, basically, and they had to scrape off a couple feet of soil to try and get all this bamboo out. I'm sure they also probably doused everything in Roundup, you know? And so all this is going on, and then the previous owner of my house made the comment that she thought the bamboo was very pretty and she would like to have some for her yard. I think my neighbor wanted to kill her. I can't blame her. Anyways, uh, somehow, then magically, how'd that happen? Uh, Suddenly there was a little thicket of bamboo on this property. Now, granted, it was much smaller. It was, you know, probably 4 feet tall, um, and thinner. So I don't think the previous owner of this place actually got a cutting from the stuff that was being pulled out by bulldozer. I think she went and bought some that was like officially a clumping and not a running variety, but it does spread. Like, it absolutely still spreads. It just does it slower. Anyway, so there was this clump spreading out between our two houses when I moved in, and my neighbor was extremely happy to see me and my dad ripping this crap out. So, you know, and we got most of it, but like I said, now it's starting, and it was gone for a while. It was gone for I'd say 4 or 5 years before I suddenly saw the first tiny bamboo shoots come up again. So yeah, that's fun. Anyways, I guess that's neither here nor there, other than the fact that baby Valerie, well, we're about to draw Valerie, so you'll see what she's imagining herself doing. I will come in with some thicker pens to really outline the bamboo stalks and whatnot. Um, but Valerie is, I guess, supposed to be about like 6 or 7 months old. So can't talk yet, can't walk yet, cries and sleeps, and fills her diaper. But in the midst of all that, when she's sleeping, she likes to, I need to now at a point where I can draw her without risking smudging as I reach over. Like, I could still reach that easily. Just need to wipe the tip. Valerie likes to dream of being a ninja. So whether this is because one night Noah was watching a ninja movie, uh, while giving her bottle, or whether this is like past life stuff, who knows? But Valerie often, not always, but often when I draw Valerie dreaming, it's this sort of stuff that she's dreaming about. Can't remember if I said in the video description that I was gonna ink cast portraits at the end. Probably not. Anyways, I'll update it afterwards. Speaking of video description and all that stuff, so what I do when I finish the stream is that I will be letting the stream get saved as, oops, that's a mistake. Um, letting the stream get saved as private, um, so that YouTube can do all its like processing crap, for 24 hours or however long it takes. Uh, Usually not that long. Usually it's like mid-afternoon. Hello, art by Sumito. Says so beautiful drawing. Well, thank you, and welcome to the stream. I was just saying that when I finish the stream, I usually save them as private until YouTube finishes its processing, and then they'll be public again the tomorrow afternoon, the day after. So in case anybody wants to go back and watch the beginning of the stream, that's what usually ends up happening. So my name is Pura, full name Pura Draculea. So the character name here is Valerie. She is the daughter of one of my webcomic characters, Noah Thorson. And she is a little baby, but dreams of being a ninja. And I had also been talking about bamboo and invasive garden stuff and whatnot along the way. Kind of related, kind of not, but So the character up there is the third grade teacher of Valerie's sister, Ursula. So, I mean, I might actually, I'm thinking, um, after next week when I finish the December marker drawing, then presuming that that's also goes quickly, I'll do at least one character or pen and ink portrait after that. Um, but maybe I might spend a week or two, like a couple of streams, just finishing up these cast portraits before moving on to the next Noah project. It's kind of gives time for them to get completed. Um, aside from any non-stream time, just might be a little easier to get them done that way, but we'll see. Soak that pen for a few minutes while we do some outlining with some fatter nibs. think we're only gonna get the one cast portrait done, but hey, it's one more than I had thought I would get done, so just thinking kind of this teddy bear has seen some things. Ursula got her mother's coloring and hair texture. Well, she got a little bit of hair texture from Noah, but Valerie got Noah's coloring. So she has dark brown curly hair and a whole lot of it already as a little baby. Right now, she kind of looks like an 80s woman with a perm, but you know. Not quite the level of hair of, what was her name, who played Carla on Cheers, Rhea Perlman. Not quite like that, but, on the continuum. Let me just move that over. I think I kinda messed that up, but that's okay. This area is probably gonna get cropped to, just below the teddy bear's foot anyways. Kinda feel like Valerie's head is a little too big for her body, but whatever. I mean, babies are kinda their heads are too big anyways, proportionally. So and that's something I can mess with in Photoshop if need be. But, we'll just leave it for now. Alright, I'm gonna stop screwing with that at that point. So let's have one more look at what we got done tonight. Um, as I carefully pick up that wet ink, look for somewhere to stick it. And actually, I got speak of wet ink, I've got some on there, so let me mop that up. So we started off tonight with the November drawing from the Noah's Archipelago Book of Days, formerly the Noah's Archipelago Calendar Project. And that is Ursula looking, since it'll be election season, Ursula looking to, just suddenly seen something I don't like to look at. See a little bit separation there. Um, Ursula deciding that the way to stop having to do fractions homework would be to get on the school board and change the curriculum. So she goes to the school board. This is the receptionist there, and demands to be made dictator of the school board so that she can ban fractions homework. And well, she's the sixth third grader this morning to attempt that. So this would be like a chapter heading, and then there would be a section on like different events and observances, holidays, etc., that happen in November. This is all mostly alcohol markers, a few other kinds of markers as well, and pigment liners for the outlines. And then what we did at the outset, where no, that was at the outset, I'm backwards. We got a black and white ink portrait done of Ursula's little sister Valerie. I am bothered by Valerie's head's too big. But I just have to remind myself I can fix that in Photoshop, just shrink her head and then fill in the background. But anyways, Valerie's in her bassinet, having a nap, and she's dreaming of being a ninja in the jungle. And I talked a whole bunch about how much I hate bamboo. So, anyways, these are going to be for two completely different book projects. This is going to be for the Noah's Archipelago first treasury of which will cover like the first 9 months of the web comic. But I'm gonna because that's the first Noah book. Hello, Luna. How's it going? This is a Pookie. Yeah. Yeah. That might be what she ends up calling her teddy bear for sure. Um, so we've been working on some Noah's Archipelago stuff. Glad to hear you're doing well. I'm doing pretty well as well. The worst of the local heat wave, the current week is over. It was like 36 degrees Celsius on Sunday. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but probably 100, something like that. Very close to it, anyways. And then yesterday was 32. And then today it was only like 27. So it's cooler and it's windy, but it's more humid than it was the last couple of days. So it feels just as bad. Had locker clean out today. It sucked. Oh, yeah. That's always kind of the annoying part of the end of school. It's like, okay, I get to have the summer off, but now I gotta, oh, yeah, all the stuff I've been keeping in my locker. Now I have to figure out what to do with it at home, eh? And I guess also, do you guys just have to get the stuff out of there, or do they actually make you like clean the lockers? I mean, obviously, I guess the janitors do a more thorough cleaning over the summer, but I'm trying to remember when I was in high school. I think sometimes we had to at least like wipe things down um, on locker clean out. Um, but that was a long, long time ago for me. But I do remember it was like the big thing when we went from seventh grade to eighth grade, like here in Canada. Well, I don't know about the rest of Canada, but in BC, elementary school is up to grade 7, and then junior high 8, 9, 10, and then it used to be high school proper, like secondary was 11, 12. Later, where I grew up, they started combining because otherwise you had like grade there in the town I grew up in, Richmond, suburb, I guess. You had originally only the 3 high schools, so you would end up with like a graduating class of like 700. Um, like mine, when I graduated, it was the last year that my high school just had the massive classes. After that, it's like the year after us, all the junior highs became like 5-year schools, and the senior ones kind of just added a year so that every there wasn't junior and senior high. It was just high school with 5 years each. But we had our graduating class was 711. And then I think the year after it was like 200, something like that. But I do remember the first time when we in grade 8 when we suddenly had a locker. It was like the cool thing as opposed to like lugging all your crap in. Well, I guess in 7th grade you just had your desk, but uh, it really wasn't that much space in the desk. You have so much crap now. Yeah, exactly. Um, well, it's a path, an extra step towards becoming an adult and realizing you have too much crap. And it's like an ongoing battle. Like, where the hell did all this crap come from? Oh, yeah, I bought it over the years. Now I have to get rid of it or sort it out or organize it. But I would say learn the whole Marie Kondo thing early. It'll make your life so much less stressful. If you learn to just purge and declutter at an early age. Um, I say that and I am a maximalist, so I have never learned that lesson, but Hey, but yeah, that was kind of well, you came in late. I don't know if you came in just after I showed. That was the drawing I did at the beginning of Ursula trying to get on the school board um, in order to no longer have math homework in 3rd grade. But she wouldn't have a locker. Yeah, just after. Okay, cool. Yeah. But she wouldn't have a locker at that age. But I do remember in 3rd grade having to clean out our desks. And when I look back now, it was such a small space. It was probably, I guess, 2 feet wide, maybe, and like 18 inches deep, maybe 6 inches high. But we could still fit in a surprising amount of crap in there. Um, and then pencil shavings and all that sort of stuff. Um, but yeah, that was the main drawing I did today. I am like 1 week away from finishing the current phase of the Noah's Book of Days thing because I'll do a December drawing next week, and then probably and then I gotta do all the writing part of this book because it didn't start out as being a book project. It was just going to be a calendar, and anyways. Um, So that is that. But what I think I'm going to do next week, after I'll be doing the December drawing, and then probably a couple more of these character portraits for the Noah treasury that I'm getting ready to self-publish. But then I think I'll probably have two, maybe, yeah, probably just the two streams where all I do are these half-page because I've got, let me go through. So that's Ursula's teacher, Miss Fartimar. That's Valerie, the baby sister. Um, that's the eldest brother, Adam. And then I haven't inked the drawing of the grandmother, Noah's mother. So I got to do Granny. And then that's Adam's girlfriend. That's the other brother, Duke. So that's two that I still have to do. Full page portrait of Noah singing on stage and sweating buckets under the stage lights. I don't know if that I don't know if that happens so much nowadays in small nightclubs because I think a lot of them probably have moved to like LED lights. Of course, I'm realizing that these are all very pale under drawings. That'll be the mother, Ruth, who is a 2nd grade teacher. And then we've got the grandparents, Ruth's parents, um, Agnes and Frank. And then Gigi, who is Adam's mom, and Gigi's man, Glenn. So got two. Okay, those ones will probably be an hour each, maybe even 2 hours each, but it'll be one stream. Probably I could do a couple of these in another stream. Yeah, it's probably going to be like 3 streams. Anyways, I'm kind of babbling, but that's what's going on. Although, yeah, anyways. So that's kind of what we got done today, and we're wrapping up. So locker clean out day. You looking forward to the freedom in the summer, or are you gonna be busy all summer? Just clean it all here. Just organizing some of my stuff. Yeah, anyways. Can't wait for freedom, yeah. That was always my thing, even if I didn't really have much going on in the summer, I'd be like, at least I don't have to do math, you know. T So you and Ursula would be on the exact same team then for, when it comes to that. Anyways, I need to, I've been going for 2.5 hours, or 2 hours. Feels like 2.5, yes, it would. So I'm going to call it at this point. Replay is going to be going live sometime tomorrow afternoon. Last night's stream, I kind of got busy and sidetracked. I didn't make it public until like 10 minutes before I went live today. But I'll try and be a little more prompt tomorrow with this stream. And then tomorrow night, I am finishing up drawing Zummel's Secret Basement Lab from my other comic project. And so we'll be doing a couple more pen and ink drawings of Zommel getting up to no good. And then Thursday, we will be working on Noah for coloring book pages. And Friday, Ricky B. the Rock and Roll Rat, all at 6:30 p.m. Pacific and going for around about 2 hours. Anyways, thank you all for tuning in. Glad you could make it, Luna. And yes, happy freedom. And we'll see you all again real soon. Bye for now. Take care.